today I thought I would take a shot at this because I remember the first time you came up to me, and I don't know anything about hockey, and you presented me with this shirt, and
Oh
it
yeah.
said "BIGGBY Bombers,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, that's a cool shirt." I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it was a real jersey, so I put that thing on. And like,
You're gonna wear it to
the
dinner?
corners are like down to here, and I could wear it as my nightie. So so they ended up getting pinned to my walls. I have several iterations
Yeah. Yeah.
of the BB Bombers jersey, but I just thought you would uh, tell us about the origin of BB Bombers.
Sure. Well, first of all, um, there are three honorary bombers on the planet.
Mm.
And that means you didn't skate with us.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you're an honorary bomber.
Mhm.
My dad's an honorary bomber, and John Gilkey's an honorary bomber.
Okay.
And Gilkey became an honorary bomber through his engagement in all the golf trips that the bombers do.
Oh,
He,
right.
he goes on all of them, right?
Yeah.
So like, he's an honorary bomber. But the story on this, I was a hockey player growing up. That was my identity.
Yeah.
I didn't care about anything else on the planet
Yeah.
until I was probably about 20 years old, and so I came to Lansing, and wherever I've been in my life, I've always built my community of friends around my hockey team or hockey players. And so I had moved here, well, to East Lansing. I was working, and I just, I wanted to play hockey. And
Mm.
so I dropped in at the local hockey shop. You remember Puck and Pedal?
Yep.
Um, there's a Puck and Pedal story that's great, by the way. And so I won't tell that right now. I'll probably forget to tell it later. But so anyway, I drop in, and by chance, the guy working there, a guy by the name of George, knew that there was a there was a tryout for the Puck and Pedal beer league team.
Yeah.
I'm like, a tryout for a beer league team? Like, I'm like, all right. And so, I go, and I'm excited. It's a 2 night tryout, 2 nights in
Mm.
a row. And so, I show up to the first one, and there's like 40, nah, it's an exaggeration. There's 25 guys on one bench
Mhm.
playing against the existing team from the previous year. And there's probably 10, 10 players on that bench. So anyway, with 20, 25 guys, you're like, oh my God. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm going to get cut from a beer league hockey team. And in my mind at that point, at what I was 23 years old, I was a pretty good hockey player,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, I'm going to get cut from a beer league hockey team. Well, I go in, and I get undressed, and I go into the shower, and Tommy Dunlap, who is the godfather of the BIGGBY Bombers, who was starting this Puck and Pedal team, he came into the shower fully dressed and walked right up to me, and he's like, you got to know Tommy, right? He's one of my best friends now, right? But anyway, he comes in, he's like this, he's like, why don't you sit on the other bench tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, that means I made the team,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm all
Yeah.
excited, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it. And
Yeah.
and so we were Puck and Pedal for a couple of years. Puck and Pedal went under. And by the way, the story about that I was going to tell you about Puck and Pedal was that, all of a sudden we had an 1800, you probably won't remember this, but we had an $1,800 invoice show up from one of those companies that delivers semi truck trailers
Yeah.
to you. And
Yeah.
then I guess you load it full of stuff, and then maybe they haul it somewhere. I don't know. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell? We don't
Yeah.
have, we would never have used that. And so we started looking into it, and I forget his name now, but it was the guy that started Puck and Pedal
Mhm.
is on the name of the invoice, but it's
Yeah.
our address, and it's our company, and somehow, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
well, what he had done is he had rented the trailer and had billed us, invoiced us somehow. And he had
Yeah.
gotten the trailer, he had loaded the trailer all full of his inventory from the store, and just donk.
Boogie.
Yeah. Well, we ended up negotiating our way out of the 18. Not fully. We paid some of it, if you
Yeah.
remember. But anyway, so that was the start of the BIGGBY Bombers. That's 1997. and we've played together now, and it's been I think Ricky has a list of every player that's ever played even one game on the
Yeah.
BIGGBY Bombers, and it's in the 60s. It's probably in the
Oh my goodness.
70s now,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a huge group, but there's a core of seven of us,
Yeah.
six of us, seven of us that have played together since that team in 1997.
Yeah.
And we played together last night. We had a game last night.
But what did it cost to become the BIGGBY Bombers from like puck and pedal? Like, was it a matter of jerseys or
Yeah,
some
pretty.
registration fee or
Well,
something?
no, I think. Well, yeah, no, the players all pay the fees, right? Like
Okay.
it's $5,500 for us to play in our league.
Hmm.
For example, today in today's dollars, and so every player pays $400,
Hmm.
and goalie plays for free. It's always been the tradition, and because goalies,
They take a lot of hits. Yep.
you got to take a goal. You got to have a goalie.
Yeah.
But so we went from puck and pedal to a friend of ours worked for a company called NEI. It's like a
Mhm.
surveying company. They sponsored us for a few years,
Mhm.
and all they do is they buy the jerseys. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And then we became Pizza House for a couple of years.
Was that was that Tony's or what Pizza House? Was that
That's that. No, the guy that ran Pizza House, the general manager of Pizza
yeah.
House East Lansing, played on our team.
Okay.
And so he approached his the owner,
Yeah.
anyway, somehow we ended up being Pizza House.
Yeah.
I
But
wasn't
wasn't
involved.
Tony M's in there somewhere?
Oh, Tony M's. Oh my gosh, you got a better memory than I do. Yeah, so we were Tony M's for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was
I
kind of
just
the
remember because I got invited to one party and it was at Tony M's.
Oh yeah,
But
you got invited to all
I
parties. You
probably
just
got invited to
showed
them
up
all,
to
but
one
yeah, I showed up
party.
to
Yeah,
one. Sorry, and I was definitely out of my league. No pun intended. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, so Tony M's was a great sponsor,
Yeah.
John McGaldy,
Yeah.
and his son became a franchisee of
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah.
And really good people, treated us great.
Yeah.
We would go to Tony M's we played on Sunday nights at that point, and every Sunday we were at Tony M's afterward.
Yeah.
And did that for years, you're right. And we would, that's back in the day when we were pretty good hockey players, and so we were. And I say that loosely about myself, but like
Yeah.
we did have some really good hockey players on these
Yeah.
teams, and
Yeah.
and we won tournaments and we won championships and stuff. And so anyway, the Tony M's era was outstanding,
Yeah.
just really a fun time. So that would have been, I think we went from Puck and Pedal to NEI to Tony M's and then Pizza House. But Pizza House was a very short-lived venture because Ricky at the end of the season back in the day used to collect all the jerseys because that the deal on that is that's how you get rid of players
Mhm. Oh,
because right, like if you want to get rid of somebody you want your jersey back, right?
yeah.
And we're cheap. We didn't have any
Yeah.
money. So,
Yeah.
and so Ricky would always collect the jerseys at the end of the season. Then he'd only call the guys that you wanted to come back to come, and then you
Yeah.
distribute jerseys again. So takes the jersey bag, he throws in the back of his pickup truck along with his equipment. And then, I think we went to the Peace House that night.
Yeah.
And it all got stolen.
Oh shit.
All of his gear,
Yeah.
everything got stolen, right? Well, the guy that owned the Pizza House was so pissed that he wouldn't buy us new jerseys, and so we weren't Pizza House anymore. And so that I believe that's the moment that we became the BIGGBY Bombers,
Yeah.
but we also didn't buy the jerseys.
Yeah.
Every player bought their own jersey.
Yeah.
Now I buy the jerseys now.
Yeah.
When we do a jersey upgrade or do something new, I buy them or
Yeah.
we buy them. But but then I didn't. It was like, what? How much? Like, no, I'm not spending $1,500 on jerseys. You guys are
Yeah.
crazy. But we also did a poll for what the name would be. And
Yeah.
so we wanted it to be a B name. And so I think we put a list of 5 out there. Everybody voted. And so the number one came back, the BIGGBY Beavers. And,
Oh, no.
and
No.
Ricky came up to me. He's like, all right, so I got the results of the poll. Nobody else knows about it,
Yeah.
but I thought I should come to you first. He's like, I don't think we should be the Beavers. And I was like, yeah, I don't think we should be the Beavers either. And Bombers was number 2. And
Yeah.
so we told everybody the poll was about, they didn't believe us either, by the way.
Yeah.
They knew Beavers had won, but
Yeah.
but everybody accepted that. So
Sure.
we ended up becoming the BIGGBY Bombers at that point. And you know, the amount of these guys are my best friends. They truly are. And we played hockey last night. Tonight at 5 o'clock, we're having our annual shopping party.
Yeah.
Where we all get together. We don't shop anymore. We never really did shop. But it's basically just we go out, we go to the bar, we have some dinner somewhere, and we hang
Yeah.
out. And I think there's 9 or 10 of us coming together tonight to do that. And it's just it's really it's a remarkable group.
But
And
what is it? Like uh, you had a company, you owned a company, from a camaraderie or team perspective or whatever, you had a team, right? And I know you love hockey and everything, but what is it about having like this extracurricular thing that you do that's valuable to you?
Well, the thing, I think I've thought a lot about why we're so close,
Mm,
and I think it comes down to um, honestly, everybody's equal,
mm,
or maybe you've got some big shot lawyer on the team,
yeah,
uh, but maybe the big shot lawyer is not that good of a hockey player.
right.
And so that big shot lawyer doesn't really have status in the room,
Yeah.
but maybe somebody who's like uh, we have a post you can't say postman mailman anymore mail delivery
Postal service worker.
yeah and so and but he's a really good hockey player.
Yeah.
That guy's got a shitload of status in the room.
Yeah.
He was our captain.
Yeah.
He got the C. Normally you'd put the C on the jersey. You'd sew the
Mhm.
C on the jersey. Well, there's no way in the world anybody's putting a C on a jersey in a beer league, right? Because all
Yeah.
you do is get harassed,
Yeah.
right? Anyway. So he got the C in orange with a black outline tattooed on his chest. So he
That's a
walks around the locker room. He's the
yeah.
captain, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it has to do with that, right?
Mhm.
Like you're all equals, and really, it's the engagement in the sport that gives you status
Yeah.
in that area in that room, and then the other thing is everybody just flat chooses to be there.
Yeah.
You
Right.
you there's you if you don't want to show up, you don't want to show up.
Yeah.
But if you don't show up, you're going to take some heat,
Yeah.
we've got players right now that are on our roster that haven't shown up in 3 or 4 or 5 games. Well, I guarantee you the next time they walk into that locker room,
Yeah.
they are going to take some heat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but then also, there's just something to having this skill that you do with other people.
Hmm.
Hockey's an unusual game. I mean, not everybody can do it.
Yeah.
You have to know how to skate and so on. And so we all have this collective skill together that we all get to do together. And there's just a lot of camaraderie around that. And that is why I play today. I mean,
Yeah.
at 53, my skills aren't getting better. you know they're not, and that's kind of a hard thing to go through, but I certainly don't want to give it up just because I'm not maybe as good of a hockey player as I
Yeah.
was at 30, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And but it's the camaraderie, it's the hanging, it's the I could be having a shitty day,
Yeah.
and I walk in that locker room and it kind of just goes away, at least for a couple hours.
And I was kind of hoping you would put a little more meat around the word camaraderie because you've used it a couple of times now.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that?
Well, I there are times, like in a team sport, especially hockey, where things happen, and like you have your teammates back
Yeah.
in a certain scenario, or you support them in a way. Like I'll never forget. This is a crazy story. we had a guy by the name of Dougie Black who played on our team, and he actually left our team and started his own team with his brother, which
Hmm.
was cool because his brother had a bunch of players he wanted to play with,
Hmm.
and so they ended up forming a new team, and they were on the ice in the game before us. And
Hmm.
so, but Dougie had skated with us for probably 15 years at that point. And so Dougie got stepped on the back of his right
Hmm.
above his skate, right?
Yeah.
Huge gash,
Yeah.
right? Like the hugest gash. And I went running down there.
Hmm.
We were at Mun Ice Arena, and I
Yeah.
went running down to the bench because I mean you could tell it was bad, right?
Yeah.
And so he was down there and he's untying his skate, getting his skate off, and he took it off, and it was his whole foot was soaked in blood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Dougie, I think we gotta go,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And I was walking behind him, and I'll never forget there was probably a 2 inch round circle every time he put his foot down,
Ugh.
right? And so we get in the locker room, and he's in. It's tough, right?
Yeah.
He had severed his Achilles tendon,
Yeah.
and my dad happened to be there,
Mm.
and my dad came down in the locker room with me, and I remember he was sitting there and he was holding my hand, and
Mm.
Dougie was a big kid and was an ex-Marine and really
Yeah.
a pretty tough guy, and I swear I was like, he's gonna break my hand. I was holding his
Yeah.
hand. He's gonna break my hand, right?
Yeah.
And but you don't move. I'm not pulling it
No.
away either, right?
No.
So my he was pretty upset. He's like, I can't afford an ambulance.
Yeah.
I don't have health insurance. I can't afford an ambulance. And I remember my dad was standing there. I just got a little choked up, but my dad was like, Doug, we'll pay for the ambulance, man.
Yeah.
Like just we'll cover the cost.
Yeah.
Just you got to go to the hospital,
Yeah.
right? And so anyway, we did. We got him to the hospital and stuff, and he reached out to me. I don't know, 6 months later or something,
Mm.
and he just said thank you, right? Like and we're just it's like I don't know. It's hard to explain
Yeah.
how and why that camaraderie starts to happen.
Yeah.
And I do think it happens in hockey more than many other sports.
Yeah.
I hear from people that play on beer league softball teams or whatever, and they have fun,
Sure.
but they're not like they don't seem to have the same connection that we do.
No, it sort of reminds me, like, what you see in the movies and that kind of thing with people who have been in the military, like Band of
Yeah,
Brothers, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and it's almost unspoken, but it's always present, you know.
I mean, I was explaining to my kids the other
Yeah.
day, they're both playing hockey now, and there's unspoken rules in hockey.
Yeah.
There's things you don't do. It may not
Yeah.
be in the rule book,
Yeah.
but if you do them,
Yeah.
your world's going to turn upside down,
Yeah.
right? Like for example, checking a goalie.
Yeah.
You touch a goalie, you're going to have five guys on top of you, right?
Yeah.
Throwing punches like it's like you just don't do it. Now, it's not in the rule book. I think legally you can, if
Yeah.
they're outside of their crease or outside of the trapezoid thing and they're handling the puck, I think you're technically allowed to hit them.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you did, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I got in trouble in this tournament. I was playing, Jason Woodrum.
Yeah.
He did some tech work with us for a while there,
Yeah.
and he and his brother flew in from Minnesota to play in a tournament with us, and I was playing on a line with them, and those two are crazy. They're
Yeah.
crazy, right? And so they get into this huge scrum right in front of the net, and I mean, it's a mess. They're throwing punches, helmets are off. It's a mess, right? And I don't go in.
Yeah.
Right. This is not that long ago. This is probably 7, 8 years ago.
Mhm.
I don't step in there. I'm like, there's no way. I'm not going in there. I will
Yeah.
get killed if I go in. Right. Oh, I mean, it took a long time. I still haven't recovered from not going in there.
No.
Honest to God,
Yeah.
like he brings that shit up to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Unforgiving. Unforgiving.
unforgiving, but that's the kind of thing. I mean, I think hockey's sort of because it does have some more violent tendencies than a lot of sports do. There's probably a little bit more camaraderie, like you're saying, like kind of like almost like this wartime bonding
Yeah.
thing. But but that's translated into, there's a lot of lessons. There's a lot of life lessons that you learn from all of that,
Yeah.
and I think that one of the places I've learned the most in my life is being part of a hockey team playing hockey. The learning how to win, learning how to lose,
Hmm.
learning how to support others, learning how to be gracious in really difficult moments.
Yeah.
Giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Th those are really important lessons that we learn from being part of a team. And I think
Yeah.
that's in most all team sports. I
Yeah.
don't think that's hockey specific at all.
Yeah.
And it's really why we've been so active in the last 5 years in terms of getting involved in supporting youth hockey.
Yeah. But
And
before you go down that rabbit
oh
hole,
yeah, sure, sure,
which is a
sure.
good rabbit hole, by the way,
Yeah,
like on the surface, it might seem like this this beer league adult hockey thing is maybe like a relief from work. I mean, like there's a lot of stress from the shit that we do in terms of starting a company and get it going. And there's nothing like, let's say, getting on the ice and letting all those frustrations go and that kind of thing. But what I feel is that you've brought a lot of lessons from the ice to Bigby, you know, and even like the word in our purpose statement, that word very specifically supporting you, it feels like straight out of what you've been talking about in terms of this camaraderie kind of thing. And it's not like, you're making anything happen for any of the guys you play with on the ice and stuff like that. But they also know that you will always have their back and you will always support them in whatever they're up to. And I feel
yeah,
like you've brought that into Big B Coffee and this idea of you know in hockey again, you've described a lot of characters, right? There's a lot of individualism that
yeah,
ends up there, but it's sort of like the real you shows up in hockey, whoever that is. You talked about the attorney who's the attorney, but once you get on the ice, it's got to be the real you or you're going to be in trouble kind of
yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
also like bringing that to Big B as
You
well.
know,
I
I,
just feel like there's a
I,
lot of dynamics that you've brought to the table there.
I think, Bob, I think one of the things that I would say that has come from hockey, the lessons learned in hockey. I was having a conversation with somebody who's interested in franchising their business.
Mhm.
And I said, listen, I can give you all kinds of nuts and bolts stuff that you need to be thinking about or worrying about. I
Yeah.
said, but first and foremost, if you don't approach this from the perspective of that you are there and your company is there to support your franchise owner in their success, if that isn't your mentality, if you're looking at it in any different way, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And and so that is this concept of having somebody's back, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that has been a big part of our mentality, and why we've been able to build this the way we have is that
Yeah.
I do believe, and I don't know that it manifests itself every single day in every single situation, but I do believe that the core part of what we bring to this franchise model is this concept of loyalty. That I mean, this company exists to support that franchise owner in building a successful business.
Yeah.
And we've got your back. We're there for you, right? And as we grow, one of the challenges is making sure that we still have that mentality and that the franchise owner still feels that mentality,
Right.
right? And that's one of the challenges we face right now.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
but I got to tell you a funny story. So, we're doing. I was doing a video about this, and I was in Las Vegas, right? And my little social media team had two people had flown to Vegas to spend the day, and we were going to do recording and whatever. So, anyway, we're talking about hockey, and that was kind of the one of the lines. And I said, hey, these guys are my best friends. I said, I got 15 best friends,
Mhm.
and then they started to kind of go down the sort of almost like to prove it.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay. So I call Ricky, right?
Mhm.
He picks up. As if I called him right now, he'd pick up. So he
Mhm.
picks up. He's like, "Hey, Mikey." I'm
Mhm.
like, "Hey, Rick, man. I'm in Vegas." And he says, "Yeah, I know. Yeah." I'm like, "Man, I'm in jail, dude.
Mhm.
And can someone's got to come bail me out,
Mhm.
right?" There's this long pause. He's like, "All right, that's it, that's it." He goes, "All right," and we hang up the phone, right?
Yeah.
and they're like, it's on speaker, and
Yeah.
they're like, what just happened? And so I call him back like 3 minutes later because I
Yeah.
obviously don't want him booking a plane ticket
Yeah.
or some bullshit. So I call him back and he's like, dude, you can't do that to me. I'm grocery shopping with my wife. Do you know how pissed my wife is right now?
Yeah.
He's like, she's over in the other aisle thinking I'm getting on a plane in the next 2 hours to fly to
Yeah.
Vegas to bail your ass out. But anyway, like that does demonstrate sort of the what we have together.
Yeah.
And it's truly remarkable.
One other thing, and this might feel unrelated, but I mean, you stated as a vision for yourself that you plan on owning the Red Wings.
Yeah. Well, um, that is, yes, I have very publicly. Front page of the Detroit Business Sunday edition of the business section of the Free Press, but that really started because I mean in many I obviously was never going to play for the Red Wings.
Yeah.
And I had this opportunity to become the assistant equipment manager of the Red Wings, and I was going to apply for that job. And that back in the day, that position was known as the stick boy, right?
Yeah.
The equipment manager dealt with all this stuff, like anyway. So I was telling my dad about that, and he said the stick boy, and he had a few expletives,
Yeah.
and he goes, stick boy, you should own the Red Wings.
Yeah.
And he walked away.
Yeah.
And so that became this thing for me somehow, and it's like, but to own the Red Wings would be to own, I can't even explain what that would be like,
Yeah.
because you grow up and as a hockey player in Detroit, the Red Wings are everything,
Yeah.
and so to think that you could ever have the opportunity to own something that is your, I mean, it's like the, I mean, I don't even know what term, mausoleum. I don't
Yeah.
even know what to
Yeah.
call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But to own that and to think that you could ever do that, and like America's an extraordinary place because I was I mean, I didn't have humble beginnings.
Mm.
My parents were incredibly supportive, and I grew up in a really fortunate situation. But I graduated college, and that I didn't have two nickels to rub together,
Yeah.
and to think that you could have a dream like that and actually believe that you could do it is pretty incredible. And
Yeah.
I like to joke. It's like that's out in the world that I'm want to own the Detroit Red Wings, and it's like based on what we're doing and what we've got going on in the world, it's like I think this guy's still got a shot.
No, no, no. It's supposed to be like a big, hairy, audacious goal, and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it is. I mean, a professional hockey team is like lakefront property. I mean, it's finite, right?
yeah.
There aren't that many teams, and so you're
32.
not a legacy team like
The Detroit
the
Red
Red
Wings.
Wings, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh, and yeah, idols,
yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah.
So
All my greatest heroes played in that organization.
yeah, yeah, and you trot them out all the time too. You've met some of them.
I have, yeah. It's been
Yeah,
extraordinary.
yeah. So yeah, this hockey thing spins around and around and around uh, to the point where all of a sudden youth hockey enters into the
Yeah,
equation, right?
yeah.
What's up with that?
Well, that was as we've grown the company, and we do have the opportunity to get involved in things and support things and so on, both financially but also from we have a lot of connections and expertise now and things, and so my brother, the association that is where I would have skated when I grew up, it wasn't there then. My brother's kids play there, and that's where I play beer league, right? So
Mhm.
um, I just approached my brother, Pat, my older brother, and I was like, hey, what do you think about approaching it's called Kensington Valley, approaching Kensington Valley Hockey Association and just seeing if we can get involved somehow,
Yeah,
supporting them. And I actually, when we went, I kind of was thinking that we would get involved in supporting the girls program.
yeah.
That was kind of what we were thinking. And we go in front of the board. My brother wasn't a board member at that time,
Mhm.
and we just we're there and we're like, hey guys, what can we do? How can we be helpful?
Yeah,
And they're like, well, listen, I mean, the 8U program, the little kids program, it's a beast, right? It's a
Mm.
tough animal to manage. And, if you guys could help us take that, take that off our shoulders an association, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
So, my brother and I go all in, and he did a ton. He did most of the work,
Yeah.
and I wrote some checks, and I got involved to some degree too. And that was it. That was the start. And
Yeah.
so we created we created all these teams that were BIGGBY teams. So, we
Yeah.
have the BIGGBY Broncos, the BIGGBY Bears, the BIGGBY Bulldogs, the BIGGBY Barracudas. And so every team that plays in the 8U program is a
Yeah.
different animal. And
And
uh,
it's gotta be a bee animal, or that just
yeah,
happens.
yeah. The Bobcats, let's see, the Badgers, right? And they all have distinct jerseys.
Yeah.
My son plays for the Bullfrogs,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Okay.
anyway, and who came up with all that was Jamie Stepanian Bennett.
Oh, okay.
He created all of those, right?
Yeah.
And they're beautiful. So,
Yeah.
and then we put together a pretty tight program to execute and so on. And one thing led to another, and we ended up partnering with what used to be Myers Tier One, the AAA program.
Yeah.
We became the sponsors of that, and
Mhm.
then we were going to work. We were working with Tom Barry from Meyer, now BIGGBY, to create this executable program that we could take to different associations to support them in building their 8U programs. So we were in the middle of all of that. Then Black Bear out of Maryland, it's a private equity company.
Mhm.
They're buying rinks all over the country, right?
Yeah.
So they came in and they bought Ann Arbor.
Mhm.
Well, I had found out that Ann Arbor was for sale.
Mhm.
And so I got involved and trying to figure out how to buy that thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd had a couple meetings with a local bank here, Bank of Ann Arbor here in town, and they were interested in maybe trying to put something together, and then it sold.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit. And then we found out it was this private equity firm out of Maryland. Well, I said to Tom, I'm like, well, what we were going to do is move the Tier One program from Lansing to Ann Arbor,
Yeah.
right? Or anyway, that's complicated, but that was kind of the idea. So why don't you call these guys and see if they'd be interested in having us as a customer? Like
Yeah.
we buy $300,000 worth of ice a year. Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they're going to be interested. And he was like, yeah. So he calls them. They're obviously interested. And so they start to form this thing where the Tier One program would start skating out of Ann Arbor. Some of the
Mhm.
teams would start skating out of Ann Arbor, and then they hired Tom directly
Yeah.
to become their operations manager,
Yeah.
and so he got involved with them directly, and then it just went from there. They bought Brighton, they bought East Lansing, and I mean these are like perfect markets for us,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we ended up getting the naming rights to those three buildings. And so those buildings are now the BIGGBY Coffee Ice Cubes. So it's
That's
BIGGBY Coffee
amazing.
Ice Cube Ann Arbor, BIGGBY
Yeah.
Coffee Ice Cube East Lansing, BIGGBY Coffee Ice Cube Brighton. And
Yeah.
so that's the progression. And now
Yeah.
we're in this amazing, I can't disclose it, but it's just really evolved. And there's a lot of really powerful things going on
Yeah.
about using the synergy in those three rinks to do a pilot program.
Yeah.
Um, Around sort of around house league athletics
Yeah.
that is I think is I my vision and what I want to try to create is a really a really well put together, well organized house league program. And
Yeah.
house league has become a four-letter word, right?
Mhm.
Because every parent wants their kid playing travel, right? So
Yeah.
you got to play travel. Like if your kid's not playing travel, they're a
That's so
loser.
brutal, though. I mean, like
Oh,
you got to
it's
trot
tough.
all over the state and
And it is a
practically
massive
lose your
commitment.
job in order to get your kid to the games. Yeah.
It's a massive commitment these
Yeah.
families make,
Yeah.
and good for families that want to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and like that's a great, I mean, that can be a great experience for the kid and for the family.
Yeah.
But there isn't an alternative option where,
Right.
the kid could play hockey in a well-run, well-organized league that is not that level of commitment.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to pilot a program where we can create that and give families a different option and a better option for certain families.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what happens is kids get into it, they love it. It's called house league all the way up through 8U. Like
Hmm.
there really aren't a whole lot of travel options. And then they get to this point where they gotta either find a travel team that they want to play on, and a lot of times it doesn't work out that well, and they leave the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the longer term vision. And then the real big vision is to create that, scale that in hockey, but
Yeah.
then start to create that in other sports as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And so that's what the heck we're up to there. And it's all about bringing kids the experience I had playing a team sport, playing hockey, and giving as many kids as we can that opportunity to learn those lessons.
Yeah.
And I read the other day that there's two people in a child's life other than their immediate family that have the opportunity to have significant impact on that child.
Hmm.
That's a teacher or a coach.
Yeah. Right.
And so these coaches have incredible influence.
Yeah.
And if we can bring coaches a whole bunch of um, you provide them the ability to influence that child in a healthy way. And all coaches, I think, want to, but I
Yeah.
think sometimes coaches don't really know
I don't know
how.
how to. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I,
Right.
I don't really know how. I mean, we're going
Yeah.
to learn,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is to provide children the opportunity to be involved in a sport in
Hmm.
a very healthy way,
Yeah.
supporting them in their development, teaching them leadership, teaching them all the things that you get out of being a member of a team,
Yeah.
that they can carry those lessons forward in their lives.
No doubt. I mean, the words that come to my mind are two that you have a place that you have a sense of belonging, and that
Yeah,
that is always just really important. I
critical.
think for anybody, regardless of what age or whatever. But if you can have that as a child, I think that that can be pretty special. I wanna close out with because I think it's kind of powerful. Well, first of all, I just want to mention that like I get tickled all the time because I'll see these little articles and they're out of like local newspapers and stuff like that about Bigby this and Bigby that and so on and so forth in hockey. And I think it's just amazing, right? And I just think, that at that level with the families and everything, that's, don't take it the wrong way, but it's almost cultish. And
Yeah,
so
it
to
is.
have people cultish about Bigby in regards to hockey and so on and so forth, I
Yeah.
just feel like it's a super big benefit. But I remember this is a hockey story. It involves your mom and it has something to do with visioning. And I don't remember if you went to a game and didn't perform well and then you had a conversation with your mom or if you were on a way to a game or whatever.
Yeah.
But this power of visioning, I feel like you were
Yeah.
influenced very early on by your mom.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise that all this shit has happened with hockey, but
Yeah.
based on that story. But would you share that?
Yeah, sure. So I was young. I was maybe 10, 11 years old, something like that. And I was playing a game in some town that was like an hour drive.
Hmm.
And we get in the car, and my mom had always been doing visioning, and she said, "Hey, listen, I want to try this out. I want to try something out." So we started talking about how I'm going to score. She said, "How many goals you want to score today?" Right?
Hmm.
And I said three.
Hmm.
And three goals for a hockey player in a game is a big deal, right? It's called a hat trick, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't happen very often. And my mom was like, "Okay, so let's do this. So tell me about the first goal,
Hmm.
and then tell me about the second goal. Tell me about the third goal." And then, we took more time after that. And she's like, "Okay, I want you to sit there and think through that, right? Like imagine that happening. And then take the second goal and now imagine that happening. And then she's like, it's like a video you're running in your head, right? Like I want you to run that video over and over again." And so, I mean, I think we probably spent the better part of the hour drive talking about this,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, yeah, you know where the hell this story goes.
Yeah.
So we go out and I play in this hockey game and I score three goals, and
Yeah.
they weren't identical to how
Yeah.
I had envisioned them, but they were
Yeah.
very, very close, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember getting in the car afterward, and I think my mom was taken back as much as I was,
Yeah.
or probably more.
Well, you're right.
So, that was like one of those early lessons in life around the power of visioning. And
Mhm.
I've done that my whole life.
Yeah.
And I vision stuff constantly.
Mhm.
And that is the power of that. I just wish I just wish everyone could understand just how incredibly powerful that is. Like,
Yeah.
what we do so oftentimes is we live with controlled within the circumstances that we see or that we're within.
Yeah.
And what visioning does is it takes you and it emotionally connects you to a possibility in the future that you're creating for yourself.
Mhm.
And then you connect with that. And in the visioning process, when you're in that visioning process, it emotionally connects you to that outcome.
Yeah.
And then remarkably, the outcome comes to fruition. And it's just like the most beautiful thing in the world,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I just was so fortunate to learn that lesson early in life. And I think so much of what you and I are able to do in the world is from that sort of principle, that
Absolutely.
where you are today does not mean it's going to be where you are tomorrow, and you have the power to create tomorrow.
No, I think that's really strong. We probably should end it on that particular note, but I also just want to say it it doesn't seem now as impossible to me that you might someday, yes, own the Red Wings.
Oh, there it is.
That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think stuff like that also will help people know that we're just
Human beings.
a couple of dudes. Frankly,
Mhm.
we're just a couple of dudes. So
Yeah.
I think that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's easy to talk about right there. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Well, it was nice to capture that, by the way.
Yeah.
So, don't really give a fuck whether anybody watches it.
Right.
I think it's great to just have that captured, all those bits and pieces.
Well, so I found out this morning, there are two teams that skate up in Heartland,
Hmm.
and they're very, very good.
Yeah.
And we've been recruiting them for a couple of months.
Mm.
This coming fall, they'll become our tier one teams at that age group.
Mm.
So it's the 15s and the 14s. These are
Yeah.
young kids. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I guess the one of the two teams is like really, really, really good. But they
Yeah.
they they all play tier two, and but they're as good as any of the tier one teams,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, we've been recruiting them, and then they've had a couple of meetings, and then yesterday, the guy that runs the tier one program asked me if I'd come on a call
Hmm.
and with these coaches, right? And
Yeah.
so I did, and I just kind of laid it in, whatever, said my piece, and I
Yeah.
got to sit through the meeting and listen to them negotiate, and it's a
Yeah.
fucking negotiation, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I found out this morning that they both accepted,
Wow.
and they're going to become the tier one teams at those age groups, and we struggle at the younger age groups,
Mhm.
and so, but I was just thinking like I might just forward this video to them.
Yeah.
Hey
Right.
guys,
That'd be cool.
you want to hear why
Yeah.
hockey's important to me and why I'm
Yeah.
doing all this shit? Well, there
Yeah.
it is. There's a
Yeah.
half hour, however long we talked. I don't even know how long we talked, but there it is. And so that could be a cool little usage of this.
Totally. Alex sent me a video of
Winkle,
Winkle, yeah,
Alex,
of
yeah.
some kids, but older-ish, coming out of like the locker room and each one of them stating what they buy at BIGGBY Coffee or something
Oh
like.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Did you
yeah.
see that?
No, he didn't forward that one to me, but
Oh, I mean
it's the
it's
Saginaw
like 20
spirit.
kids coming out and it's like, yeah, I do the I can't remember what fucking drinks, but
Carmel Marvel.
Caramel Marvel, but White Lightning was really popular with them. And then, every once in a while there'd be a Bragel. And then one kid came out and said, I don't go. But that was like 1 out of 20 or something
Right,
like that. But
right.
it
Well, that
it,
makes it authentic.
it does. It
Yeah, yeah.
does. But And then, some kid had like this very long order that must cost them like fucking $15 a morning or something like that. But it was fun. It was
Yeah,
fun.
you know, that's a OHL team. That's a very high level of hockey.
Mhm.
And these kids are all high school aged,
Yeah.
and they're from all over the country. They're all from all over North America, right?
Yeah.
And they move here to play on these teams. And so we've gotten behind. Alex really has really gotten behind that team and does a lot with them. I think they came
Mhm.
in and they wore their jerseys and then
Mhm.
they were baristas.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, I think so. I think he trained some of them to be baristas, and they came in and did it. I don't know. I might be making that up, but doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But yeah, it's really cool, you know. And we're supporting them. We're supporting the Flint Firebirds. So Megan supports the Firebirds in Flint, which is in the
Okay.
same league. And then there's three teams in Michigan: Flint, Saginaw, and Sault Ste. Marie. And then
Gotcha.
all the other teams are in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the league that I want to found a team and have them play out of Brighton
Yeah.
and be in that league. That's a near term goal.
Okay.
5 years, 5 years ish. Uh, so anyway, it's cool. It's really cool, you know. And I didn't even know a lot of that shit was happening. But you know, it
Isn't
is.
that amazing though that it does?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like there's shit that's happening now related to it that you don't even know about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I got invited to go to a game on like a Wednesday, and
Mhm.
Megan sent me a text saying, "Hey, we're doing an orange out at the Flint Firebirds game on Saturday. You should come." I was like, "Oh!" And so I took Oscar and Renzo. We went up
Yeah.
there, and they gave away orange T-shirts with the Firebird logo on the back
Hmm.
or on the front, and the BIGGBY logo on the back.
No
So I'm
shit.
sitting in the stands. There's 3,000, 4,000 people
Yeah.
all wearing Big B t-shirts walking
Fucking
around.
awesome.
It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool.